This is an awesome comment. So let's take, for example, the name Caribbean Islands, okay? If I'm not mistaken, it comes from the Caribes or the Caribes, which were indigenous people of those islands that unfortunately we know what happened due to colonialism. But that is the original history of that name that brought forth Caribbean. It was based on the indigenous people of that land that not only had cultural similarities, but also ancestral relationships. And I think they continue to travel, if my understanding and memory is correct. I have not studied the Caribbean in quite a while, and I'm old, so the memory is not there. I apologize. But there is a connection, a correlation. The Middle East is not that. The Middle East is literally a made up term like Narnia. It's literally a made up term like Narnia. Let me look up when they started using it. So it was in the mid 1800s, and it was brought forth by British colonialism. And what it did was it took a bunch of different countries and geographically said Middle East. Relative to where? Apparently the center of the universe, because Westerners and colonizers believe they are the center of the universe. But that being said, there is not much in common between those countries. Oh, Mo, but they're all Muslim. Nigeria has the highest population of Muslims in the world, if I'm not mistaken. Not a Middle Eastern country. Pakistan is Muslim, not a Middle Eastern. Like, so it's not about religion. Okay. Language. Our languages are so different because we were all colonized by the Arabs and we were all Arabized that I'm Egyptian. And at one point I had both a Syrian colleague and a Moroccan colleague. So as a North African and another North African working with me and a Southwest Asian working with me, both Middle Eastern, we needed Google Translate to speak to each other, and we were all speaking Arabic. We couldn't communicate. And this isn't like pronunciation versus patois versus there are gross differences. Gross differences. We were just smooshed together. And we were smooshed together, and then it was even more with the United States when you heard the term axis of evil. I come from the axis of evil. I'm those immigrants nobody wants. It's kind of funny to say, but it was literally a bunch of countries smushed together. Very culturally different, very socially different, very governmentally different, like so many differences. Historically colonized by different people. We were all like muffed up by different people. And yet they smushed us all together into one collection between two countries. And what's really interesting is culturally, some of us, like North Africans, are demonized more by others, which I think was intentional. Historically, they wanted to separate us from the rest of the even Saharan North African countries. But even the definition of Middle East seems to be very fluid. Some people want to include Sudan, others don't. Some want to include Somalia, others don't. Some want to include Mauritania, others don't. They're all Arab. No, actually, we're not. Most North Africans are not Arab. The Levantines have a small fraction that are Arab. And our cultures are very different in many ways. Our phenotypes are very different in many ways. Our tribal heritage is very different in many ways. It's actually intentional erasure. Very intentional erasure. Historical erasure, cultural erasure, identity erasure. So it's not that they don't use Middle East anymore. They created Middle East. They created Narnia. They can call it whatever they want. Just many of us who are decolonizing refuse to acknowledge that name. Because if we acknowledge that name, we might as well just say, hey, we're all Taylorists. Because that was the intent. The intent was to steal our land by demonizing us while collectively putting us under this window. So, hope that explains it. I'm exhausted. My brain is literally fried. I've had quite a series of weeks now. But if that doesn't make sense, please comment and I can try again.